I'm 9 months postpartum, and today we're discussing my postpartum fitness journey and my 20-pound postpartum weight loss so far. After my first pregnancy, it took me almost 2 years to get back down to my pre-pregnancy weight. And now with my second pregnancy, again, only 9 months postpartum, I am below my pre-pregnancy weight. And I wanna walk you guys through what it's been like, what I've done differently this time around, and also highlight that my priority is always long-term health and wellness over short-term results. With my first pregnancy, it took me almost 2 years to get back to my pre-pregnancy weight, and then that's when I got pregnant again. There was really no wiggle room. It's like I hit that number and then we got pregnant like within a couple months of that. But this time around, something was different. Let me tell you what that thing was. I got diagnosed with ADHD and I started taking a low-dose stimulant medication, and my life has changed. 180. Genuinely, it felt like overnight. I wanted to say it right off the bat because I think it's important to disclose, because side effects of stimulant medications can be weight loss. I didn't just like start a medication and then not do anything and like all this weight fell off. I want to tell you exactly how ADHD was keeping me from my fitness goals and what changed, because I didn't realize how intertwined they were until the shackles of executive dysfunction came off and I was able to like be myself and the person that I always thought I was for the first time basically ever. The biggest and most obvious and instantaneous thing that happened was I stopped binge eating. One of my ADHD symptoms that I didn't realize was correlated to ADHD was binge eating. And binge eating has ruled my life. It has probably single-handedly been the thing that has kept me from every single fitness goal I have ever had. I was craving dopamine, and for me, sugar filled that desire for dopamine. And as far back as I can remember, I've struggled to have self-control when it came to sugar, treats, desserts, anything like that. I had so much shame for so many years thinking that I just struggled with self-control and I just didn't have enough discipline. And that was the message that I had in my head. You're just lacking discipline. You just can't do it. You don't have enough structure. You don't have enough self-control. And as soon as I started my medication, I realized that wasn't the case at all. I had an executive dysfunction issue and a need for dopamine. And those things, those chemicals in my brain overrode any programming that I tried to apply in regards to self-control or discipline. I did not get clinically diagnosed with the binge eating disorder or specifically treated for it. I was treated and am being treated for ADHD. And I'm using my life experience and discernment to deduce a binge eating issue. So just for clarification. After starting medication, I also didn't get derailed entirely when I needed to make a slight adjustment to my schedule. Life feels like truly like a before and after at this point. Before, if I had a routine in place and I needed to make an adjustment to that routine, the routine was as good as gone. It was a nice run. Looks like it's over now. I've been able to make the decisions that I want to keep me on track for my long-term goals and focus on delayed gratification versus instant gratification. And I've been able to stick to the promises that I make myself, the schedules that I've laid out for myself. And if I need to make a slight routine adjustment, it doesn't explode in my face. I can just make the adjustment and then do the thing in the adjusted way. I've watched so many videos where people talk about sticking to a schedule and just having the discipline to get up on a gym day even if you don't want to go. And I thought that I just didn't have enough willpower. I thought that I could willpower my way out of a dysfunctional brain. And despite fitness and the gym being one of my mega hobbies, it's one of my favorite things to talk about, it's one of my favorite things to pursue, I felt like a failure for years, over and over again, trying to achieve my fitness goals and missing the mark. And every repetition of that cycle continued to hit that hammer on shame. It's a you problem. You're not good enough. You can't do what you want. You don't have the willpower. You don't have the strength. When actually it was ADHD. And as soon as I treated the ADHD, all of that internal messaging and shame I had around willpower and capability just disintegrated overnight. And overnight, I was able to execute overnight. I changed my life overnight. because I got my ADHD treated. My life changed overnight. My fitness routine changed overnight. Weight fell off basically overnight because I treated my ADHD and was able to implement all of the things that I had been trying and failing to implement for the last 10 years. The easiest illustration is just burning rubber. I've been revving my engine for 10 years. I had the energy, I had the excitement, I had the horsepower, but I was in frickin' park. And ADHD medication put me in drive and I just took off. Looking at like photos, looking at the progress that I made so far, it feels like an overnight transformation, but it's 10 years of research and effort and trying and learning and honing my method. And then I finally put myself into drive and I was able to take off and really see success immediately. That feels like a really huge disclaimer, but also really important to say, because maybe you're like me and you didn't realize that ADHD could very well be keeping you from your goals or sabotaging your goals. Genuinely, I feel like nobody's talking about it. I haven't heard from someone who has a similar story to me, and I just think that it's really important to talk about. Now that we've gotten that very long, important disclaimer out of the way, here are the things that are basically non-negotiables. Breakfast is non-negotiable. I go to the gym basically as soon as I get up on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So in the mornings, I wake up and the first thing that I have is one of the Chobani protein yogurt smoothie things. Other than this, I try and prioritize proteins from Whole Foods, but this makes it so easy. When I wake up in the morning, I don't always have the time to make a complex breakfast. So to ensure that I'm getting protein first thing in the morning, I have to just take the easiest route possible, and that is that Chobani. And I drink that, I have some water, and then I get out the door and go to the gym on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. That's the other thing that I do, is the gym 3 days a week. Right now, it just feels unrealistic and a little bit too much of a push for me to do more than 3 days. So I don't try and force myself to do like 4 or 5 days a week, because I also have other stuff. This is not my whole life. I'd love to be a fitness influencer, but I have other stuff going on. I'm a mom, we're opening a business. Like, I have stuff to do. So I like to get in and get it done, 3 workouts a week, and I make them count. I am lifting heavy. I'm pushing myself to the limit every time I walk into the gym. I also don't want to lose muscle. I want to maintain and hopefully continue to grow my muscle while I'm losing weight. That's a body recomposition when you're doing fat loss and muscle growth at the same time. I'm probably not growing a ton of muscle, but I sure as hell do not want to lose any of it, because for me, maintaining lean muscle mass is one of my number one life health priorities. And so that brings us to the next thing. What am I using to work out? How am I pushing myself so hard? I paid for a year subscription of Ladder. They have multiple different coaches in the app, and I haven't used a training program in a really long time. I've kind of been doing my own programming, and I did not see the progress that I was wanting with that approach. Ladder is the first like fitness app that I've used, and it is incredible. It's like a meathead's dream. I'm the meathead. I feel like I've already gotten my money's worth. I just hit my 1,000 workout minutes. I just hit 9 weeks. Exciting. I've worked out 3 days a week without fail. I'm not sponsored by them, although I would love to be. I just don't think I have the physique for that yet. I love that you can track the weight that you're using in the app, so you can guarantee progressive overload, which is when you're continuing to get stronger and lift heavier and heavier weights. And progressive overload is what builds your muscle. Here's the important thing. Don't freaking lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. You have to get really comfortable with radical honesty. I'm not going to be a victim to myself. I'm about to start my period, so yesterday I just did what I could. I'm not very strong in the week before I start my period. I have really low energy, so I understand I'm not going to be hitting PRs the week before my period. However, I'm not going to let that be a slacker week. I do think being able to be honest with yourself is such a good quality to have, and the ability to have compassion and discipline all in one. Now let's talk a little bit about nutrition. This is another big thing. They say abs are made in the kitchen. Nutrition obviously plays a huge part. Like I said, this is the thing that caught me up every single time I tried to lose weight before getting my ADHD treated. I was working out all the time. I wasn't losing weight because I was eating way too much food to actually be in a calorie deficit, which would lead me to weight loss. I am still breastfeeding. I did wait for a little bit to even start anything that was even remotely diety. My baby started eating solid food like around the 6 or 7 month mark, but we're still nursing multiple times a day, nursing throughout the night. I haven't noticed any changes with my breast milk. That's usually a huge indicator of too much of a calorie deficit, FYI, if you start to notice milk supply changes. I do see a lot of people who have like huge postpartum weight loss transformations. They're often not breastfeeding, which like no shade in either direction, but I wanna let you guys know I did it while breastfeeding. So my main nutrition goals, other than a calorie deficit, are hitting 110 grams of protein every day and 30 grams of fiber. For over 10 years, I used MyFitnessPal because it was what I was familiar with. And now that I have the Ladder app, they also have a nutrition section and I use that to track my food. And I'm pretty lenient, frankly, when it comes to tracking. Now that I have my ADHD managed, I have a lot more self-control. And also just the fact that I'm breastfeeding, I'm not trying to be crazy strict right now, and I'm not trying to like super shred. I like the Ladder nutrition calculator. It's really thorough as far as like calculating how many calories you should be consuming every day, and it does take breastfeeding into consideration. With the main goal of 110 grams of protein and 30 grams of fiber, I know the push for protein is so mega right now. Everybody's pushing you to eat a crap ton of protein. I just don't care that much. I care about getting an adequate amount of protein because I'm working out, I'm using my muscles, I want those muscles to grow, but I haven't pushed it up to that like 1 gram per pound of body weight or whatever. 110 grams is pretty easy for me to get in every day when I'm prioritizing it in my diet. And if you are a mom, if you are a busy woman, I would not stress yourself out trying to shove in weird like protein snack things. I would just lower your protein goal a little bit. It's not going to hurt you. Unless you are an athlete or a fitness influencer or you have really specific fitness goals, you're probably okay to just lower the protein goal a little bit. I don't use protein supplements most of the time. Like I said, I focus on whole foods for my protein intake. And for me, it is so worth it to just not stress about that. Of course, if you're barely hitting 40 grams of protein, if you're eating all carbs all day, you do need to have an awareness of what you're consuming. I can sit down and confidently make a decision to lower my protein intake right now to help me just manage my nutrition in my life because I have 10 years of tracking my intake and knowing how much protein I get on the daily. And then fiber. My girl. She's what protein is trying to be. The rates of colon cancer are going up for young people. I am going to do everything in my power to not be in the colon cancer statistic. One of the issues is a lack of fiber. And so I said, perfect, I'm gonna change that immediately. And I've had some incredible fitness and aesthetic results just from getting that fiber in every day. My digestion is so much better. Everything's working very regularly. And what that's resulted in is less bloating unless I'm around my period. But even around my period, the bloating is significantly less. I also started eating 30 grams of fiber prior to getting my ADHD treated. And it also helped curb some of my sugar cravings. It just helped keep me more full. And so I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm hungry, I wanna go like scrounge around for some sugar. And less bloating, less snacking, less sugar means that my tummy has been significantly slimmer. I turn sideways and my waist disappears. I look way better right now than I did last time I was at this weight. The body composition is way different and I notice it so significantly in my tummy. And the last big thing that I prioritize with my nutrition is eating the amount of calories that I'm supposed to. For me, being in a slight caloric deficit and taking breastfeeding into account, I'm eating about 2,200 calories a day, and my ADHD medication can cause appetite suppression. Some people experience nausea. I don't experience that. I make sure that I am eating at least 3 times a day. I usually snack 3 additional times a day, so I'm having 3 full meals and snacks throughout the day. I do not go under that 2,200 calories. I want to hit those calories because I'm still breastfeeding and it's important that I keep my milk production up, but also because I don't want to crash diet and just lose a bunch of weight and lose muscle that I've worked very, very hard to build and maintain. And I don't want to be in a position where I hurt my metabolism by sending it into starvation mode. For me, there is no upside to lowering my calorie intake just for the sake of it. I always want to be in a position where I can eat more. And let's talk about the science of that. The more muscle you have on your body, the more energy your body needs to run. Muscle uses more energy than fat. So if you want to have a diet that is flexible and a calorie expenditure that can afford you going out to eat with your friends, and one that allows you to live a really vibrant, fun life and eat exciting foods, your body wants energy. It wants to use energy. It wants to intake energy. And that's why I always prioritize muscle growth and muscle maintenance, and always eating as many calories as I can to maintain my goals. I've never been in a position where I was under eating. I've never in my life been in a place where I even have the potential to undereat because I've dealt with binge eating for my entire life. Now that I have essentially removed that from the equation, it would be really easy for me to just eat less. That is the last thing that I want to do. In my opinion, and the general consensus of professionals, being in an extreme calorie deficit is bad for you. Just because you can does not mean you should. This is, of course, not prescriptive. This is my experience with a little bit of advice sprinkled in from that experience. I'm not a professional. And I really encourage you to consider your long-term goals when you're thinking about weight loss. Short-term goals are the things that keep us excited and motivated and looking to the near future for a near future result. But don't let your short-term goal derail you from your long-term life goals. A crash diet to get super skinny for this summer is not worth having osteoporosis when you're 50 because you have no lean muscle mass or bone density. And also, skinny isn't everything. Put your holistic, whole body, mind, soul, health, wellness, longevity, and vitality at the forefront of your goals. Your body is a tool to use, and it should feel alive and vibrant. Words that I use to describe my ideal body are bouncy, exuberant, agile. There's a level of movement and ease that I desire out of my body, and so every health goal that I have and fitness goal that I have is working towards those things. Being capable of basic movement in my 80s and 90s is important to me, and so the things that I do today ideally are going to lead me to that longevity in the future. I don't want my bone density and muscle mass to deteriorate and leave me frail and wishing that I had done things differently when I'm in my 70s, 80s, or 90s. A lot of old people break a hip and don't survive that year. I don't want that to be me. I don't want fragile bones. I want to be able to withstand a fall and also have the agility to not fall over at every turn. Being stiff and in pain sounds miserable, and so I want to do the things now that will help me avoid that in the future. This was a pretty intense chat. Tell me about your experience with ADHD and binge eating if you have experienced it. And if you have any questions for me, leave them below and I will answer them in the comments. Thank you guys so much for being here. Subscribe if you like this. I talk a lot about motherhood and womanhood, and we've got some pretty exciting stuff happening this year that I think you'll want to see behind the scenes of. So stick around. I'll see you in the next video. Can you wave? Bye. Bye.